Good morning, everybody, and happy Saturday. Today is going to be my last devotional before we all get back to church tomorrow. So I am going to go ahead and wrap up our little mini series on Paul. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with our egg. Today's egg is a green egg. And inside we have a Lego building block. And you're probably thinking, what in the world does that have to do with Paul or anything in the Bible? So we remember that Paul had gone from hunting down Christ followers to becoming a Christ follower. And I really want you to remember that not only did God accept him and forgive him of what he had done in his past, God chose him. God chose him to carry out his mission and to spread his word. So if you ever think there's something that you've done in your past that was so bad you could not be forgiven, just remember this story of Paul. And God is not worried about what you've done in your past. He will forgive you if you ask for forgiveness. God just really wants your future. But one thing about Paul, we know he was an encourager. And he spent the rest of his life encouraging the church, which we know is not just within the four walls of a building. The church is the Christ followers all over the world. And one thing that Paul did was he wrote down a lot of his encouragement that he had given in speeches, and he had put it in letter form, and that makes up a whole lot of the New Testament that's in the Bible. And I'm going to go over those today, and this is in no particular order, but we have 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, we have 1st and 2nd Corinthians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, we have Colossians, Ephesians, Galatians, Philemon, Titus, Philippians, and Romans. Now, this is some of the New Testament. And if you remember, some of the stories we know about from the Old Testament, we have the story of creation, we have Adam and Eve, we have the story of Joseph in his coat of many colors, we have Moses, we have Daniel, we have Noah's Ark. Whoops. This is why I'm not in construction. We have the story of David and Goliath. We have the story of Jesus' birth. And we have the story of the death and resurrection of Jesus. And when you put all this together, you get a bigger story. But within each one of these blocks is an individual story. And the one thing that they all have in common is God is in every story. And this kind of takes me back, it reminds me of when when it started clicking together and he said, hey, that story's in my Bible. Sometimes I think when we look at the Bible, it can be a little overwhelming and we think, I'm never going to understand all this. And this is why Sunday school is very important. Wednesday night Bible study is important. Sunday night Bible study, because we can break down each story and learn about it individually. And once we put it together, that's the bigger picture. And just like God is in each individual story here, he is the common denominator holding the big picture together. And that's just how it is in life now. And even what we've all been going through, God is the common denominator that's holding all of this together. We could not do this on our own. There has to be something bigger and better holding it all together. And I just want you just to remember that, and just remember that God is holding the bigger picture together. So I'm going to keep it pretty brief today, and I am going to do, I do want to share a story with you. So, and the thing we learned about Paul is that he is an encourager, and I know that I had gone over this scripture before, but I'm going to use it again, and I'm going to share a little story with you. So therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Thessalonians 5:11. And I want to share this because the way it happened, it was a God thing. So there was a Friday I was supposed to be off work, and as many of you can probably relate, when your work is sitting at your kitchen table and it's on your personal phone and now your personal computer, it's really hard to walk away from it. So there was a Friday I was supposed to be off, and to make a long story short, I ended up not just working a regular day, I was going on a 10-hour day, and it was just stuff that couldn't be helped. It was nobody's fault. But I was getting overwhelmed because I had stuff I needed to do on Saturday and Sunday, and if I hadn't done what I needed to do on Friday, it was just going to put everything else off. I was getting overwhelmed, not discouraged, just overwhelmed. How am I going to get all this done? And I got a text. It was from Natalie, and she said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Oh, you're going to be sorry you asked this, but I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah." She said, "No, I'm really glad you told me because now I can pray for you." And I'm not kidding you, within about an hour, my executive director called. And she and I do not, we very seldom have time to sit and have a phone conversation, or she's usually going in 100 directions and I'm going in the opposite. But she didn't even know anything was going on, but she called me and we had a conversation that day, and everything that was kind of piling up on me, she just started addressing, not even knowing they were issues for me. And as I was listening to her, I just started to feel less overwhelmed. And got off the phone and I told Natalie, I said, "Well, your prayers are working because I'm already feeling better. This is all good. I can do this." So I got up the next day and I thought, how am I've got double duty today because I got to do 2 days worth today. And it was personal stuff running around. And I stopped to check my mail before I left. And I have to tell you a little backstory there. One of the projects we asked our kids to do was Marcy had made homemade cards, and she had made the do-it-yourself kits for our kids, and we asked them, she wrote them out directions of how to make the card, and we asked them to think of somebody that needed encouragement and send them that card. That was their project that week. So I'd gone to my mailbox and I opened my mail, and there wasn't a return address on it, but I opened it and I thought, this card looks kind of familiar. And I opened it and I'm going to read it to you. And it says, "Hey, Shelley, so I couldn't think of someone to write to, so I just decided to write to you. I hope you're doing good and I really miss you. Sincerely, Tyler." And he had glued this other little scripture thing in here. And it says, "When we run out of gas, God still has a full tank. And when we can't do it, he can. If you've got the faith, he's got the fuel. I'm praying you'll depend on him." And the scripture is, "But he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God." And that's Luke 18:27. And I tell you, I took that with me that day running errands. And I think I got like 3 days worth of stuff done that day because it had just given me that encouragement that I needed. And that's why this is so important, to encourage each other. And I know when Tyler sent that card, he thought, well, I don't really know who to send it to, but God knew who needed it. And Tyler listened and he did it. And I'm really proud of him for doing that. And it just so happened right at that same time, right around the same time, Tina Stahl ended up showing up too that weekend and just bringing me a little something. And just the way that all happened, that just was a God thing. And I just wanted to share that. But I'm thankful for my PG family. I'm thankful for the kids. I'm thankful for the parents for encouraging them. And looking forward to seeing everybody starting tomorrow. But I do want to do one final spotlight. And that is on Pastor Jeremy. And I really feel I have been in a unique spot to see Jeremy in the last couple months lead. And I knew from the very first day I met him, and I remember telling Tina and Maisie, I said, I knew within 5 minutes he's going to be our new pastor. I just knew it. And to watch him these last couple months has been a real blessing. And I want you guys to know from day one, he said, I don't want to just have church online. He said, I want to react throughout this. And there were so many moving parts to all of this. And there's so much I'm sure I didn't even know were going on. But he was concerned from our oldest members down to our very youngest members. He was concerned with their health physically. He was concerned with their health spiritually. He wanted to make sure we still had services available, that we have these daily devotions. He wanted to make sure that we were still doing Wednesday nights. And I was very impressed with that. And he wanted to make sure that our kids had projects. He wanted to make sure the church was clean and sanitized. And I'm sure a gazillion other things that were going on. But I am just so impressed with his leadership. And he did it. I know his motivation was, it was for God, and the glory was for God. It wasn't about shining a light on Persimmon Grove. And I also want to give a shout out to Natalie too, because he's a young family man with a little one at home, and he's still working a full-time job. And if she wasn't there supporting everything he did, he wouldn't be able to do what he does. So I just really want to give a shout out to them and just say, thank you, Pastor Jeremy, for leading us, for inspiring me and everybody, that there's been a lot of people working behind the scenes to make things happen. And we appreciate you. We love you guys. And we will hopefully see most of you tomorrow. Bye.